Ventura County Agency Formation Commission.
Is your mic on?
Meeting
Is your mic on?
Which one?
I think so. Right there.
There it goes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Now you're on.
Start again. Call to order. This is the Ventura County Local Agency Formation Commission, the meeting of Wednesday, January 18th, 2023, and the time is now 9 o'clock. At this point in time, I'd like to begin with a pledge of allegiance. John, would you lead us in the
Yes.
pledge?
Please follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the election of chair and vice chair.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, we have a roll call.
Commissioner Avila? Here. Commissioner Crosswhite?
Here.
Commissioner Levere?
Here.
Commissioner Parvin?
Here.
Commissioner Rooney?
Here.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Here.
Chair Richards?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Santangelo? Here. Alternate Commissioner Hassan?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And number 4 on our agenda is the election of chair and vice chair for the Ventura County Local Agency Formation Commission. At this point in time, I'd be glad to entertain motions for chair.
Mr. Chair, I like to nominate Pat Richardson for chair.
I'll second.
Yeah, motion and a second. Do we need a roll call?
Roll
Michelle?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Avila? Aye. Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Levere?
Yes.
Commissioner Rooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Yes.
Chair Richards?
Yes, thank you. At this point in time, I'd just like to say thank you very much for consideration with regards to chair. I understand it's generally a rotation, but at the same time, I rely entirely on all of you folks for your background and history associated with not only LAFCO, but the county in general. So again, thank you very much. At this point in time, we have the call for vice chair, and I'd be glad to entertain a motion.
Chair,
Mr. Chair. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Parvin. I'm sorry, Commissioner Parvin.
I would like to nominate Jenny Crosswhite as vice chair.
I'd be glad to second that.
I'll second that.
Jenny, are you okay with that?
Yeah. Michelle, do we need a roll call or vote?
Commissioner Avila? Yes. Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Rooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Levere?
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Yes.
Chair Richards?
Yes. Congratulations. Any comments you'd like to make?
No, just that it's an honor to be nominated, and I hope to serve well in that position. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 5 on our agenda is the agenda review. Any considerations for changing or modifying the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I do have a comment.
Yes.
Okay. So this morning I saw that we got some additional emails from comments from the public, and I would like those emails to be added into the official record, please.
Any objections? Hearing no objections, we'll move forward. Thank you, Commissioner. And item number 6 on our agenda is the presentation and announcements of a number of new members to LAFCO. And Guy, did you want to go through those?
Certainly. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have several new additions to the commission, and I'm happy to welcome you all. We start off with the recognition of the appointment of Supervisor Jeff Gorell as a regular county member. He fills a vacancy that the term will expire at the end of 2025. So welcome, Jeff. He was unable to attend today, unfortunately. We have the recognition of the appointment of Supervisor Parvin. Welcome back, Supervisor Parvin, in a different capacity to the commission. And she was appointed to fill a term that will expire at the end of this year. We have a recognition of Councilmember Jenny Crosswhite with the City of Santa Paula, who was selected by the City Selection Committee to fill a term ending the end of this year. And we welcome back Mayor John Zaragoza with the City of Oxnard, who the City Selection Committee selected to fill a vacancy that ends at the end of 2025. And we also welcome Raul Avila with the Calleguas Municipal Water District. He was selected by the special districts to serve a 4-year term ending 2026. And then the recognition of Mohammed Hassan with United Water Conservation District, who was also appointed by the special districts to serve as the alternate member for a term ending in 2026. So again, welcome you all. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry, and Susan Santangelo, of course. I skipped right over you. Susan Santangelo was selected by the City Selection Committee as the city alternate member, and she will be serving till the end of this year. So sorry about that, alternate Commissioner Santangelo. So again, welcome you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kai. Moving on our agenda, we have public comments, item number 7. And at this point in time, we have public comments.
We have someone raising their hand. Richard Levy.
Hi, good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you.
good. Okay, thank you. I'm speaking regarding agenda item number 18, which are letters from Yossi Kavyatsky and Mike Klein. You may ask, so who are these whistleblowing citizens who write these hateful letters of corruption and fraud about Eric and myself? Well, they're developers who want to remove us from the Homeowners Association Board and the CSD Board and replace us with people who are better suited for their needs and agendas. It's almost cliche, us against the developers. Anyway, these hate letters are nonsense at best. Let me illustrate. Eric Wolf, in an email on November 17th, asked Yossi, if you have any proof of wrongdoing, please provide it to the DA. So far, all of your allegations of wrongdoing, fraud, and embezzlement were met with proof of no wrongdoings. Of which Yossi responded, I don't have any proof of any wrongdoing yet. Plenty of suspicion from official bank statements and other materials. After 6.5 years of him serving on our homeowners board, this is all he could come up with. And yet the letters just keep coming out. This group has sent our homeowners association board members threatening emails, threats of being personally sued, threats of jail, all kinds of threats. One member of this group has recently been arrested by Ventura County for fatally poisoning the dogs of 2 board members of the HOA. So we live in fear of these developers who use these Machiavellian tactics to further their cause. We can't let our dogs outside at night. I put up security cameras in my house. These are nasty, nasty people. These are not whistleblowers. These hate letters serve no purpose in a LAFCO agenda other than to defame the reputation of Eric and myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levy. Rochelle, any other?
We have Eric Wolf who has his hand raised to speak.
Okay. At this point in time, I'd like to mention that there is a time element for public speaking.
Yeah, commission policies do limit public speakers to a cumulative time of 5 minutes. That includes speaking on multiple agenda items.
Thank you, Guy. Mr. Wolf?
If it's may I begin?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if it pleases the commission, I'm going to hold my time to agenda items 17 and 18.
Very good. I understand that you want to comment on item agenda 17 and 18. Is that correct?
That's what I heard. him
Okay.
saying.
All right, moving on.
We also have Mr. Robkin wishing to speak.
Yes.
Mr. Robin?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Can't hear him.
I can't hear him.
Can't hear you, Michael.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Mr. Robin, we cannot hear you.
Okay. Can you?
I don't know.
No, it was working before.
He no longer has his hand raised.
No, okay, moving on. Is there any other comments? Rochelle?
Nobody else.
If I may, Chair, we did receive an email about 2 minutes before the meeting started. It looks like a public comments. The email contains an attachment. It's a rather lengthy letter. I was speaking with legal counsel, and instead of reading the entire letter, we agreed that we can introduce I can read the email itself into the record and then provide the letter to the commission afterward.
Is that regarding public comments, Kai?
Yes. They don't specify an agenda item, so we assume public comments would be the most appropriate place to read these into the record.
And you're going to read the title. Who's it from?
Sure. This is from Olga Damascus. It's addressed to Dear Honorable Mr. Luoma and LAFCO. Attached, please find my letter regarding our request as residents of Bell Canyon for your help in protecting our tax dollars, property values, and reputation of our commission. We have been trying for over a decade to stop the nefarious and illegal actions of Eric Wolf and Richard Levy. We have been unsuccessful and are in desperate need of your assistance. Thank you. The name is Miodrag Nikolic. And as I said, the attached letter will be forwarded to the commission later today.
All right, thank you very much.
We have Mickey Devadovich wishing to speak.
Try again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. 1 second, please. All right. My name is Mickey Davidovich, and I'm here to talk about why Eric Wolf and Richard Levy are ruining CSD reputation, Bell Canyon CSD reputation. I've been a Bell Canyon owner for nearly 20 years and love Bell Canyon. Eric and Richard are hurting the community, in particular whistleblowers such as myself. They are damaging the county. By sitting on CSD, they are damaging the county reputation. Their action have hurt way many people in Bell Canyon. Many in the community are not trusting CSD just because of Eric and Richard sitting on the board. They are not fit for public positions and should resign or be recalled. Eric Wolf and Richard Levy have no regard to public trust, and they have abused their power time after time. Eric Wolf and Richard Levy are not only on the CSD, but they have also been on the board of Bell Canyon Homeowners Association for years. In 2013, the DA said that serving both boards could lead for future conflict of interest, and it advised that no one should serve on both boards. Both men have ignored this advice for 10 years. They do not care about protecting public institutions. Both Eric and Richard has done things that show why they were advised not to serve on both boards. They were advised to recuse themselves from votes that may benefit the homeowner association, as stated on the MSR. They have not recused themselves and have voted multiple times to give CSD money to homeowner association. There is a close relationship between CSD and homeowner association and CERT, with lots of overlap on both membership. The MSR found that there were $51,000 budgeted for CERT for over 4 years, but the money is not in the annual audits. Where is the 51K? Bell Canyon CSD is not allowed to budget for CERT. CSD money has been granted to the homeowner association from many other programs, which is not allowed. Right now, there are questions about how the homeowner association is spending funds. And those funds include CSD monies that Eric and Richard have voted to transfer into the homeowner association. This was created at least, created at least the appearance of questionable actions. Eric and Richard continue to resist for Bell Canyon Homeowner Association forensic accounting. Eric and Richard put the community at risk losing county services, which can happen if CSD does not change. LAFCO investigation found there's missing funds and misappropriated funds. LAFCO gave the Bell Canyon CSD opportunity to fix the issues in the MSR, which would help to protect the residents and the owners of Bell Canyon. Instead of taking steps to fix the problems, Eric and Richard Levy threatened to sue Mr. Kai Luma, who is at LAFCO. Eric then tried to get more power by becoming a LAFCO commissioner. Thankfully, Bell Canyon effort worked and he was not elected. Richard and Eric do not have the character to be in public life, going as far engaging in anti-Semitic name calling and trivializing the Holocaust. They have used to attack Bell Canyon residents who have asked them to be transparent when it comes to Bell Canyon funds. And homeowner association board member and Bell Canyon resident, Yossi, asked Richard and Eric to have forensic accounting. In response, Eric called Yossi Nazi, Hitler, to be more precise, Hitler. He went on extended rant in writing, where he compared Yossi request to the board for Richard to have forensic accounting to the Nazi genocide of over 6 million Jewish people. This behavior is disgusting. This behavior reflects.
Mr. Vidovich,
poorly
your
on the-
time has expired.
Mr.
Well, I'm sorry, I had to read it because English is my second language. So can I finish? I'm almost done.
We have a policy of 5 minutes. Unfortunately, you'll have to wrap it up in about 10 seconds.
Okay, 5 minutes it is. I understand. I will appear at the next meeting to comment. I'll send letters about Richard lies over this Zoom. No problem.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the.
Eric Wolf has his hand raised again.
Is Eric Wolf going to comment now, or is he going to wait until his items come up?
Yes, if it pleases the commission, I'm just going to take a couple of minutes now and then a few more minutes during the items 17 and 18.
Okay, just recognize that your time is cumulative.
Yes, I realize that. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Wolf.
Again, so what you are witnessing is Mickey is not foreign to LAFCO. Kai and Mickey has sent many emails to Kai, which he is saying is completely false. We are actually doing an audit. I am anything but anti-Semite, never called anyone Hitler in my life. I'm Jewish, raised in Israel. That's What you're looking at is the problem that we're having here.
All right, Mr.
Just
Mr.
complete and
Wolf.
utter lies. Mickey does not
Mr.
live
Wolf,
in.
please stay with
ex-
the facts that are involved. No personal
Oh, okay.
vendettas.
Well, okay. Well, I thought that, okay, I apologize, but I was just responding to what the accusations, who seemed very, very personal. I think I was being calling a Nazi and anti-Semite. But furthermore, Mickey does not live in Bell Canyon. She is a developer. She owns multiple properties in Bell Canyon. That is true as a developer. Olga Damascus does not live in Bell Canyon. And that's all I want to say, that everything she's saying is false. I'm just not even going to, give any credibility or any to what she's saying. It's just untrue. Furthermore, I think Kai can answer this to the commission. Kai will tell you that there is no missing funds from the CSD. He stated so in an email. And there's nothing to what she's saying that is correct. And I'll take the rest of my time at items 17 and 18. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wolf. Do you have any other comments, Michelle?
Nobody.
All right. Moving on to the agenda, we have the consent items, 9 through 14. Any reason or interest to pull any of the items?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner?
yes, I just want to know if we've received any comments on items 10 and 11 regarding the Ojai Valley Sanitation District annexation or the Camarillo organization. And I'd like to pull number 12 in order to vote separately on that, please.
We have received no comments on either of those two items.
Okay, and I understand you wish to pull item 12. Is that correct?
I want to pull item 12 to vote on it separately.
So need a motion to approve items 9 to 14 except for 12, is that correct?
I believe so. Is that
So
correct?
I'd like to make a motion to approve items 9 to 14 and pull 12.
I'll second,
Except for 12, excuse me.
except for 12.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Zaragoza.
Commissioner Avila? Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes.
Commissioner Loviera?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Rooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Yes.
Chair Richards?
Yes. Okay, we have item 12 pulled. That's the minutes of our meeting of December the 12th, the special meeting. And I believe,
Right, I don't have a presentation, but these were the minutes of the special meeting that was called at the direction of the commission for my performance evaluation, which was conducted in closed session. This item was originally scheduled for the November meeting, but the commission continued it to a special meeting in December. I do want to note that, of course, it takes 4 affirmative votes for any action of the commission. And regarding minutes, commissioners do not have to have been present at the meetings to vote in favor of the minutes. Thank you.
I do have some
there's
comments.
Commissioner Rooney, did you have comments?
Thank you. I do. So on the minutes, I don't see where Linda Parks was nominated as Chair Pro Tem. I mean, she was allocated at the November meeting just for that meeting only, but I don't see record of the commission voting for that. And also, I do want to note that I did make a request to extend the meeting to a later date. The commission did not take action on that. And so I was not able to provide my comments for his evaluation. So based on those things, I just would like to vote separately on this agenda item.
Any other comments?
So you need a vote on this?
Yes, we do need a vote on it.
I'll move approval on 12.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion to approve.
We have a second in the motion. Rochelle?
Commissioner Avila?
Yes.
Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes.
Commissioner Loviera?
I'll abstain.
Commissioner Parvin?
I will abstain.
Commissioner Rooney,
No.
Commissioner Zaragoza,
Yes.
Chair Richards.
Yes. And I believe the item carries. Okay.
That's
all
four.
right. So we're finished with consent items, and we're moving on to action items. We have item 15, changes to the Brown Act regarding remote participation rules. Jeff, I believe you have some comments on it.
I do. Yeah, thanks you so much, Chair. My name is Jeff Barnes. I'm Chief Assistant County Counsel. I'm relatively new to LAFCO, so welcome to the new members. I look forward to working with you and the remaining members from before. I've been with Ventura County Counsel's Office since 2007, and I'm, again, looking forward to working with you all. As you may have heard, the Brown Act's teleconference rules are going to be changing very soon. And so we thought it would be helpful to provide your commission with an overview. And I'm going to try to stay big picture with this presentation. There's a lot of details. They're not all included in my PowerPoint. So the main message is if you do have questions or you think you're going to need to miss a meeting because of an illness or other emergency type situation, you need to reach out to staff and we can work with you in seeing if we can accommodate a remote appearance. So I just want to say that out of the gates, don't want this presentation to go too long. Next slide, please. And as most of you or all of you probably know, the Brown Act is California's open meeting law. The main purpose is government transparency, and the kind of most important rule of the Brown Act is that discussion of the commission's business involving majority of commissioners must occur at agendized public meetings. In terms of teleconferencing, the Brown Act's default rule is that public meetings are to be held in person, and teleconference options are the exception. Teleconference is defined by the Brown Act as a meeting of individuals in different locations connected by electronic means through either audio or visual or video or both. Next slide, please. And we've all gotten very used to the COVID-19 teleconferencing rules that were codified by AB 361. They remain in effect while the governor's COVID-19 state of emergency remains in effect. And as I'm sure you all know, teleconferencing is allowed if your commission makes findings every 30 days that the state proclaimed COVID emergency exists and that remote meetings are needed basically to ensure public safety. And so I know that's what your commission's been doing for a few years now. And in terms of teleconferencing, if any commissioner teleconferences, the public must be provided remote access to participate remotely as well. And so I know that's what your commission's doing, as you know, have very many other California public agencies. Next slide. Rewind a few months, the governor or the state legislature came up with AB 2449. The governor signed the new law. And so it establishes new, more permanent teleconferencing rules. The rules stay in effect until 2026. They may be extended at that point. So they're not necessarily permanent, but they'll be around for a while. And so the most important takeaway, I think, for today is that the AB 2449's rules take effect the earlier of the end of the governor's COVID-19 state of emergency or next year. Now, there's urgency here because the governor has stated his intent to lift the COVID state of emergency at the end of February. And so I think barring any huge additional COVID spike, we can expect the COVID-19 state of emergency will in fact be lifted at the end of next month. And so then we will be operating under this new Brown Act teleconferencing legal landscape that I'm going to go over very quickly here. Next slide. Thank you. So once AB 361, basically the COVID teleconferencing rules go away, then there's going to be two teleconferencing options. The traditional Brown Act teleconference rules, which I will go over, or the new 2441 rules, which I'll also go over. And again, teleconferencing under both of these rules is the exception, unlike 361, where teleconferencing basically was the rule. It was super easy, everyone did it, that's just how we operated. That's going away, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective. Next slide, please. So traditional teleconferencing rules, they've been around for a long time. They're not used very often. And as I go down this checklist, as many of you maybe already know, you'll see why. A quorum of the commissioners needs to be present for anyone to be able to teleconference. If a commissioner teleconferences, then the physical location of that commissioner must be posted on the meeting agenda, whether it be your home address or the hotel where you're staying. And so that obviously involves loss of privacy, as does the next. I'll skip to the bottom of the list, and this is why most people don't do, most public officials don't use this. The public must be provided access to the location where the commissioner is teleconferencing from. So if it's your home, you would literally need to invite the public into your home. More likely scenario where this could be used if you're traveling and there's a hotel conference room where you could invite the public into. But again, it's rarely used for that purpose. The meeting room also needs to be ADA accessible, which complicates it any further. So again, not used very often. I won't spend any more time on this. It still will be available.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, yes, please.
Jeff, does it have to be posted?
The meeting agenda has to be posted outside of
Wherever the person is.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think
again,
that's-
your home, hotel conference room, or yeah, you'd have to post it outside the hotel probably.
Yep.
So very complicated. Next slide, please. So that gets us to 2449 rules. And again, bear with me. Feel free to ask questions, but it's just, I just want to, go over pretty quickly. It's complicated. And don't blame me because I didn't write it. So again, the quorum of commissioners must be present in person at the same meeting location that's open to the public. So for your commission, presumably it will be here in this meeting room. So that's, if anyone's going to teleconference, if any commissioner is going to teleconference, you need a quorum physically here. The public must, as is the case with 361 and how we currently operate, the public must be able to participate remotely, either via Zoom type platform or telephone with live webcasting. A benefit to these rules is that unlike traditional teleconference, the location of remote commissioners need not be disclosed. Commissioners who do appear by teleconference must have audio and video and audio, so they need to participate on a Zoom type platform. They should announce whether anyone else in the room, any other adult is in the room with them, and if so, their relationship to that adult. And that's just a requirement in the statute. Next slide, please. So here's kind of the kicker. The teleconferencing commissioners need to qualify for one of two exceptions in these rules in order to appear remotely. The first is a just cause exception, and that's if the commissioner has family child care or caregiving issues, a contagious illness, disability-related accommodation is needed, or if the commissioner is traveling on official business, either of this commission or on behalf of another state or local public agency. This exception is limited to 2 meetings per calendar year. After that, if you cannot attend remotely, then you just cannot participate, period, at least under this exception. The general reason for the just cause exception applying must be publicly announced. The commissioner, you don't need to go into any level of detail about your illness or your family caregiving responsibilities. It's not intended to invade your privacy, but the record does need to reflect that you fall into one of these categories. No commission action is needed to authorize just cause teleconference. However, your commission needs to, if a commissioner is going to appear remotely under this exception or the other one I'll go over, again, I just want to emphasize you need to reach out to staff as soon as possible. So when we're preparing the agenda, that can be reflected on the agenda. And also the coordination with the other commissioners to make sure that we have a quorum live. So there will be coordination that will be needed. Okay, next slide, please. So the emergency exception is the second, and this is defined as a physical or family medical emergency that prevents a member from attending the meeting in person. Again, you're not required to disclose a diagnosis or any private medical information, but you need to, if someone's going to use this exception, they need to, state that they qualify. Again, this is a limited use exception. It can either be used for 3 consecutive months or 20% of the meetings of LAFCO per calendar year. If a body regularly meets less than 10 times per year, then only two of these exceptions can be used per calendar year.
Jeff, is that immediate family, or how do they classify family?
You know what, that's a good question. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if that's defined. I can get back to you on that.
All right, thank you.
And so unlike the just cause exception, though, where the commissioner does not need to take any action, the commission would need to take action at the beginning of the meeting to basically recognize and affirm that an emergency request is valid and will be invoked by a commissioner. So again, this will require coordination with staff if a commissioner intends to invoke it. Next slide, please. So as I keep saying, if one of your commissioners has an issue that requires a remote appearance, reach out to staff as soon as possible, and we can assist with that and coordinate with everyone else. The justification for the remote appearances will need to appear on the agenda or stated on the record. So we'll need to kind of, and I'm assuming these will be used once in a while. So the agenda will reflect that. And we'll make it as easy as possible. And so just keep in mind that commissioners appearing remotely will need to, state if another adult is in the room with them, as I went over before, and confirm that they will participate with audio and visual. I'm assuming they'll use the Zoom platform, so that will be fine. And again, so staff will need to track the remote appearances, make sure we have an in-person quorum, and make sure that the requisite information appears on the agenda or is otherwise stated in the record. So I know I threw a lot at you. Feel free to reach out to staff or me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to take any questions now. Thanks for listening.
All right, thank you very much. Jeff, any questions from the commission? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know that this body necessarily has them, but if there was, say, a subcommittee of the board and they were meeting, would they be subject to the exact rules, or how does that work if it's less than a quorum of the board?
Let's see. So LAFCO, there's no subcommittees for LAFCO, right?
There's occasionally a
There's
subcommittee, yes.
Okay. And so I think it would, or I know it would depend on whether the subcommittee itself was a Brown Act body, if it was ad hoc, and and temporary, it wouldn't be a Brown Act, so these rules would not apply. If it was standing and the Brown Act did apply, then the same rules would apply.
The typical subcommittees for the commission have been ad hoc with 3 members.
Mr. Chair, Jeff, I understand that you can teleconference 2 times a year. Does also require the majority of the board to agree on that? And do they agree prematurely, or is it part of the agenda? Or
No, that's a good question. So so you basically, you have a total of 4 because you have the 2, assuming someone qualifies, there's the 2 just cause, which do not require LAFCO approval. They just need to be reflected on the record.
Okay.
And so again, no vote for those 2. For the emergency, a bit narrower exception, those do, so you get 2 there too, those do need to be approved by the commission proactively as part of the public meeting.
So after if they use all 4 options, if you want to call it options, then that can no longer participate in the meetings.
Exactly. And so, that's, then the alternate for your appointing authority would appear on your behalf.
Thank you.
And any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 16. We'll get an introduction to LAFCO 101.
We need to vote.
Up.
It's a receive and file.
Receive and file.
So you need a motion for receive and file, so move.
So move.
So move.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Second.
Yep, I will.
Second by Rooney.
Commissioner Avila?
Roll call.
Commissioner Crosswhite?
Oh,
Yes.
Commissioner Lavier?
sorry, missed that.
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Rooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Yes.
Chair Richards?
Yes. All right, item 16 on our agenda. This is introduction to LAFCO 101.
Can I, Mr. Chair, can I share something?
Certainly.
Kai, I kind of missed this on the agenda. And one of the things that I asked our city manager is that we wanted to invite the people from Oxnard to listen to LAFCO 101. Can we do this twice? Because I think it's important that our staff, especially the permitting process and those folks, we have a lot of new folks in Oxnard, and everybody should know LAFCO 101, but potentially, I wish I would have looked at the agenda much sooner than, because I wanted to invite most of our city staff to listen to LAFCO 101.
Thank you. Well, it's the pleasure of the commission. If you would like me to make this presentation twice to you, I'd be happy to do that. Or as an alternative, I would be happy to go to the city of Oxnard and make this presentation directly to them. We have a similar request from 1 or more county agencies who are probably watching today, and that may follow up with a request to speak to them and address them with this presentation in person as well.
Well, I think I like the second option, of you attending one of our city council meetings. And
Sure, I'd be happy to.
thank you for that.
Chair, I have an option number 3.
Yes,
Option
go ahead.
number 3 would be to watch this meeting and then be available for questions. I'm just, from an efficiency perspective,
That's good, that's okay.
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
just option number 3.
Absolutely. Yeah, this will be recorded, and it will be posted on the LAFCO website and available for anyone to watch at any time. And again, the commission always supports outreach on the part of staff, informing the public of LAFCO. So again, if this is followed up by another request for additional information,
Great.
I'd be happy to do it. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Guy?
okay. Okay, so this is agenda item number 16. It is an introduction to and overview of LAFCO. We are taking this opportunity to do this, given the several new members on the commission, and I did this in consultation with Vice Chair Richards, that we believed it was a good idea. The new commissioners would benefit from it, and potentially existing members as well. So considered a refresher for existing commissioners. So the presentation will include 6 categories: history of LAFCO, what is LAFCO, who is LAFCO, what are the purposes of LAFCO, and how does LAFCO achieve its purposes, as well as how is LAFCO funded. And like I said, this will be available on the website. I think it's already actually uploaded onto the website, so it's available there. And if you have any questions as I'm making the presentation, please feel free to interrupt me, and we can have that conversation. So we'll start with, of course, what does LAFCO stand for? It's the Local Agency Formation Commission. It is a mouthful, so we are better known by the acronym LAFCO. And it's kind of a misnomer too, because local agency formation is something that the commission does very rarely. The commission more is focused on adjustments to existing jurisdictional boundaries and service areas. So it is somewhat of a misnomer, but that's what we're stuck with. So that's LAFCO. Start off with the history of LAFCO. So the conditions that led to the creation of LAFCO started really following World War II, when there was a population and housing boom in California. In the 10 years between 1950 and 1960, the population of California increased from about 10.5 million to almost 16 million population. This represented an increase of about 51%. This was a rapid increase. And this, of course, resulted in extensive suburban development. Picture the San Fernando Valley. That's the typical example of this. And as a result, there was a scramble to finance and extend services to all this new development, all of this suburban development. You needed sewer, you needed water, streets, police, fire, all of those things that LAFCO is concerned with. And this resulted in what was called city annexation wars. This was where cities were competing with one another to kind of beat the other city to annex an area adjacent to them to derive the tax revenue, extend services, et cetera, control an area. So there really was these competitions among cities that were occurring. And then there was also a proliferation of single-purpose special districts. Now, there's nothing wrong with single-purpose special districts. There is a problem of inefficiency when you have a whole bunch of small single-purpose special districts providing the same service, where one single large special district, a single government entity, could be doing that instead. So the result was illogical and inefficient service boundaries. That's what you would expect. This next slide is an example of a more egregious city annexation. This is the city of Redlands back in the 1950s. The city is in pink there to the left. The orange is an actual annexation that the city of Redlands, I think, got approved, showing just the competition and illogical boundaries, illogical service areas. This was determined that this is not good government and should be avoided. So in 1961, Governor Pat Brown formed the Commission on Metropolitan Area Problems, and it issued this report. And this report was the first rational focus on the need to encourage orderly service boundaries of cities and districts. This really was a first. The story goes that Pat Brown was actually taking off from Burbank, flying over the San Fernando Valley, and seeing all of this leapfrog development occurring everywhere, and said, we got to do something about it. So in 1963, as a result of that commission's report, the legislature passed the Knox-Nesbitt Act, which formed LAFCOs, and the purpose of LAFCOs was to regulate the boundaries of local agencies. Then in 1965, the legislature passed the District Reorganization Act. Now this was developed a unified procedure for changes of organizations for districts, and it included the requirement that LAFCO now does that. Then in 1961, LAFCO was required to determine spheres of influence, and this provided LAFCO with its first planning authority. So LAFCO was now involved in dictating or directing where planning was going to occur within a county. And then in 1977, you had the Municipal Organization Act, and this was a cleanup of city procedures, again, including LAFCO in that process. So now, by 1977, you had 3 different bodies of law, 3 different acts that involved LAFCO jurisdiction. You had the Knox-Nesbitt Act, the District Reorganization Act, and the Municipal Organization Act. Well, this wasn't very efficient for LAFCOs. So in 1985, the legislature combined all of these and updated them into the Cortese-Knox Local Government Reorganization Act. And then in 1993, AB 1335 improved some of the procedures that were in this new act. And then in 2000, there was the state of California formed the Commission on Local Governance in the 21st Century, which issued a report. And that report included a lot of recommendations, a lot of which affected LAFCOs. And these included that LAFCO should be neutral, independent, and provide well-balanced representation. Prior to this, LAFCOs were a function of the county. They didn't have the representation that they do now. And they weren't independent, they were dependent on the county. Another recommendation was to strengthen LAFCO's power to prevent urban sprawl and ensure orderly extensions of government services. That municipal service reviews should be prepared to inform sphere of influence updates, and strengthen the policies to protect agricultural and open space. And this led to the adoption of the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Local Government Reorganization Act of 2000. This is the law that LAFCOs currently operate under. It's found in Division 3 of the California Government Code. And an important provision of it provides that this division provides the sole and exclusive authority and procedure for the initiation, conduct, and completion of changes of organization and reorganization for cities and districts. All changes of organization or reorganization shall be initiated, conducted, and completed in accordance with and as provided in this division. So this gives LAFCO the sole authority over changes to the boundaries of and service areas of cities and special districts. So what is LAFCO? LAFCO is an independent quasi-legislative agency. The commission is entirely independent. It's not part of the county, it's not part of special districts, it's independent. This means that decisions made by the commission are final. They cannot be appealed to another administrative body. LAFCO essentially functions as a state agency. We're formed under state law and implement state law. We're, of course, granted with the authorities pursuant to LAFCO law. There is a LAFCO in every county, and each county's LAFCO exercises its jurisdiction over the special districts and cities in that county. And the California 5th District Court referred to LAFCOs as the watchdog the legislature established to achieve its specific purposes. Who is LAFCO? Well, the Ventura LAFCO, as you know, is comprised of an array of local representatives, 2 members from the County Board of Supervisors and 1 alternate member, again appointed by the County Board of Supervisors, 2 members from city councils and 1 alternate appointed by the City Selection Committee, which is a committee made up of the 10 mayors, 2 members from the boards of independent special districts, and these are selected by the independent special districts, and 1 alternate, and then 1 member of the general public and 1 alternate. The little asterisk there is just to denote that not all LAFCOs have special district representation. About half of them do not. What does CKH or LAFCO law say specifically about commissioners? Well, I wanted to highlight 1 section. It provides that while serving on the commission, all commission members shall exercise their independent judgment on behalf of the interests of residents, property owners, and the public as a whole in furthering the purposes of this division, that division being LAFCO law. Any member appointed on behalf of local governments shall represent the interests of the public as a whole and not solely the interests of the appointing authority. This section does not require the abstention of any member on any matter, nor does it create a right of action in any person. So what does this mean? Well, we refer to this as having of commissioners wearing their LAFCO hat. You'll hear this throughout the years as part of the LAFCO community. Commissioners are expected to wear their LAFCO hat when sitting on the commission. So what does this mean? Well, based on that previous section, it means that commissioners do not represent the agency upon which they were elected to serve. It means that commissioners do not represent special districts. They do not represent cities or the county. It means that commissioners must work on behalf of the interests of residents, property owners, and the public as a whole. Now, this doesn't mean that a commissioner has to disregard the interests of the agency on which you serve or special districts, but that can't be your sole focus. You have to have a broader focus of the public at large. And commissioners must work to further the purposes of LAFCO. So what are the purposes of LAFCO? Well, there's 4 main purposes that are outlined in LAFCO law and the government code. They are discouraging urban sprawl, preserving open space and prime agricultural lands, encouraging the efficient provision of government services, and encouraging orderly formation and development of local agencies based on local conditions and circumstances. How does LAFCO achieve these purposes? Well, LAFCO has 4 primary duties that it uses to achieve those purposes. The one is to coordinate the logical and timely changes to local government boundaries. And as I said, applies to the 10 cities and the 49 special districts. 2 is establish a sphere of influence for each city and special district. 3 is to conduct special studies, recommending ways to simplify and streamline governmental structure. And then finally, consider requests for out-of-agency services. And I'll touch on each of these briefly. So the first is that the commission acts on changes of organization or reorganization. These are all examples of changes of organization. Individually, they're called a change of organization. When multiple changes of organization are combined, it's called a reorganization. These include annexations and detachments. Annexation, of course, is adding territory to the jurisdiction of a city or district. A detachment is the reverse. Consolidations means where 2 cities consolidate into a new city or 2 districts consolidate into a brand new district. We haven't had one of those in a long time. Incorporations, of course, are forming a new city. Disincorporation is basically eliminating an existing city. Formations, that's the formation of a new district, and a dissolution is when a special district gets dissolved. And then there's mergers. That's when a district can merge with the city taking over the functions of that district. So as I said, typically the commission's focused on annexations and detachments. Establishing spheres of influence. As I mentioned, spheres of influence were kind of that planning tool that the commission has. A sphere of influence is defined as a plan for the probable physical boundaries and service area of a local agency as determined by the commission. LAFCO must adopt a sphere of influence for each city and special district, and all of any changes of organization have to be consistent with that sphere of influence. So you'll often see a sphere of influence needs to be amended sometimes to accommodate a change of organization. And then LAFCO must, as necessary, review and update each sphere of influence every 5 years. So the commission has to at least touch bases with these districts and cities, make sure their sphere of influence still represents their probable future boundary area, boundaries and service area. And if it doesn't, the commission can take action to either reduce that sphere of influence or expand it. But when you expand it, it's considered an update. Well, I'm sorry, you can go back to that. You can go to the next one. This is just an example of the cities. I didn't put all the special districts up here because there's just too many. These are the 10 cities in the different colors, and you'll see that they're surrounded by a red line. That red line is the sphere of influence that this commission has determined for each of these cities. You'll see, like in the instance of Moore Park, I do not have a pointer. That the sphere of influence is coterminous with the boundaries of the city. Whereas you look at, thank you. If you look at, say, Oxnard, you'll see that the sphere of influence, it goes beyond the city. Now, this is to accommodate future development in some of those areas where development hasn't happened, but it's also to accommodate kind of legacy situations where the city has been providing services to like the El Rio community. So it just kind of acknowledges that the city does provide some services out
Mr.
there.
Chair, Kai, the sphere of influence, excuse me, for Oxnard goes out to, is it 3 miles out into the offshore?
Yes, the coastal communities, they extend 3 nautical miles off the
offshore.
coast. You'll notice that. Technically, they are within the jurisdiction of those cities. However, they lack jurisdiction. That is the coastal commission. The
And
reason
it's
for the
the
3 nautical.
same way for Ventura, right?
Yeah, Ventura and Port Hueneme.
Port Hueneme, right, okay.
And the reason for that is that those boundaries align with the state boundaries. So the state boundaries extend 3 nautical miles off the coast, after which it's federal waters.
And one more question too. I remember a while back, the Ventura Harbor wanted to do some fishing thing offshore. Mussels, and they were going up past the 3 mile LAFCO sphere of influence.
Right, yes.
So those things I think are really important to understand too.
Right. Yeah, and in that case, the Port District wanted to extend it and operate outside,
This,
basically the state of California.
into
And
fed waters, yeah.
Right, it didn't have that authority.
I think that's important to understand that we do have the influence up to 3 miles offshore, so. Thank you.
Right, and LAFCO also functioned as a state agency, as I said. So LAFCO's jurisdiction can't go beyond that 3 miles.
Right.
LAFCO has no authority to operate outside the
Beyond
state.
that, yeah. Thank you. Mhm.
And the next slide is just, this is more of a close-up of the city boundaries and sphere of influence. The yellow is city boundaries, and here the sphere of influence is in red. So there's areas within the sphere of influence that the commission has already determined are likely to be future boundaries. And then some of it just reflects existing neighborhoods that aren't part of the city yet. And I'll touch on that a little bit as another agenda item. And then we do municipal service reviews. I mentioned that whenever a commission updates a sphere of influence, meaning enlarges it or establishes a new sphere of influence, or just when a study of a district or city is needed, the commission can accept a municipal service review. This is prepared by staff. It's a comprehensive study to determine the adequacy of governmental services being provided by local agencies that are subject to LAFCO. As I mentioned, they're required to update or establish a sphere of influence. And the MSR studies, they go into detail on 5 different topics. They include growth in population, adequacy of current and future public services and infrastructure need, financial ability of agencies to provide services, opportunities for shared facilities, and accountability, governmental structure, and operational efficiencies. There was a lot of mention during public comment about the MSR. This is what that was referred to.
And my apologies for
No,
interrupting.
no, please don't
But
apologize.
under the MSRs, you also have to look at reducing islands, right?
Yes, and I'll touch on that on one of the items that I'll talk about next.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Thank you.
right, so those are MSRs. And then finally, request for out-of-agency services. There's a section, a provision in LAFCO law that does not apply to LAFCO. It applies to the cities and the special districts. And it says that a city or district may provide new or extended services by contract or agreement outside its jurisdictional boundary only if it first requests and receives written approval from the commission of the county in which the affected territory is located. So a city or district, whenever they want to extend boundaries outside their jurisdictional, service outside their jurisdictional boundaries, they have to receive LAFCO approval first. But the government code limits the circumstances in which LAFCO can approve it. Sometimes LAFCO just can't approve it because the circumstances don't allow for it. The 2 circumstances are that if the commission finds that the service is in anticipation of a change of organization, usually annexation, and it's within the sphere of influence, then an extension of service can be provided. The understanding is that it will soon be annexed into the district. The only other circumstance is to respond to an existing or impending threat to public health and safety, but that's only if the area is outside the sphere of influence. Absent a threat to health and safety, LAFCO has no authority to approve a service outside the sphere of influence.
Can conditions be imposed on those extensions?
Conditions can be imposed on out-of-agency service agreements. And the commission has delegated to the executive officer action to approve these in most of the circumstances. And we do routinely, and we let the commission know on the next agenda afterwards.
And Mr. Chair, it does not have to be contiguous to the agency.
It does not.
That's why the other service.
Right, exactly. So there are situations where, it's like say in El Rio, there's a development proposal,
That's right.
but it's 3 parcels away from the city of Oxnard, but it needs Oxnard water. Well, it can't annex to Oxnard because it's not contiguous. But LAFCO can approve a service, say water, to that development with the understanding that it needs to annex at some point into the city.
Potentially.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And now, what does LAFCO, what does commission, what does staff use to determine whether a proposal is consistent with the purposes and objectives of LAFCO? Well, one of those tools is that the government code LAFCO law requires the commission to adopt policies. So it provides that it is the intent of the legislature that each commission shall establish written policies and procedures and exercise its powers pursuant to this part in a manner consistent with those policies and procedures, and that encourages and provides well-planned, well-ordered, efficient urban development patterns with appropriate consideration given of preserving open space and agricultural lands with those patterns. So these policies have been adopted by the commission. This commissioner's handbook's been around for over 20 years. We routinely update it or add new or modify existing policies. This is available on the website. I think new members were given a copy of this so far. You can go to the next slide. And so the policies contain divisions that apply to all of these things that the commission is responsible for doing. We have operational rules and regulations that just really how the commission operates and the rules by which it operates, operational policies. Then divisions 3, 4, and 5 are really kind of the meat of the policies regarding commission decisions on changes of organization, spheres of influence, and out-of-agency services. Okay, lastly, how is LAFCO funded? LAFCO is funded in thirds. So 1/3 of the commission's budget comes from the county. 1/3 is divided up among the 10 cities, and it is apportioned based on revenue. So the city with the highest revenue that year will pay the biggest apportionment, the biggest portion of that 1/3. And the same applies to the 29 independent special districts. They provide 1/3, and their apportionment is based on revenue. We do receive limited funding from application fees and interest earnings, but it's usually minor, 2 to 3%. So we do rely on our funding agencies to operate. And that concludes my overview. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Could I just, how is SOAR and the county guidelines for orderly development incorporated within the decision-making process for LAFCO?
That's at the next meeting, I was contemplating having another presentation about how development occurs in Ventura County. And that directly speaks to SOAR, the guidelines for orderly development, Greenbelt agreements. In order for, LAFCO's role in development comes at the end of development. A development has to either be approved by a city or a county, entitlements given, and then that city or county has to come to LAFCO to ask for LAFCO's approval for an annexation. The guidelines for early development, the SOAR provisions, and the Greenbelt agreements really do restrict a city's ability or the county's ability to approve that development in the first place. You know, SOAR measures require voter approval. Greenbelt agreements require that the parties to the agreement, which is usually one or two cities and the county, to amend the Greenbelt. Guidelines for early development adopted by all of the cities and LAFCO encourage that new development happen in cities. So there really is a limitation on the ability of cities and county to approve development in a large part of the county. So if LAFCO never received an application because it couldn't get through a city process or the county's process, then LAFCO can't take any action on it, of course. Now, LAFCO has adopted policies recognizing that, well, the commission is not gonna accept an application that violates a city SOAR ordinance. And that's because the city will never approve a development that violates its SOAR ordinance. So it's just kind of a backstop to let future applicants know to LAFCO that, well, you gotta comply with, the city and county limitations, so.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yep. Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Kai, for the presentation on LAFCO 101. And one of the things that I think is important, I've been with LAFCO for quite a few years, and one of the things that I believe that LAFCO 101 is, I don't care how many times you've been in LAFCO or whatever, you always learn something from LAFCO 101. And one of the most important things I think that we need to understand is that when we're LAFCO members, we have to put the LAFCO hat on, and think how we're going to help the community, the residents, and the whole county as a whole. And many, many times there's decisions that LAFCO staff makes following Cortesinas, following the rules of LAFCO. And sometimes developers and cities and agencies don't like, and they blame LAFCO staff for it. LAFCO staff follows the LAFCO rules and the law, and I think that's the kind of things that we need to put our hats on for LAFCO. And of course, we also have to represent our communities and so forth. And if the community is not correct, then us as members should talk to staff about, hey, you got to follow Rule 1 all the way to Rule 10, whatever the number is. So I just want to commend you for that because I think it's important. And I've gone to Cal LAFCO meetings, and if you have an opportunity, there's a lot of good opportunities for you to see what other LAFCOs do And I believe that our LAFCO, because it's Ventura, is probably ahead of a lot of LAFCOs that don't follow the rules. And I know that, what's the name of the attorneys that work for Cal LAFCO, and I can't remember their names right off.
Is it Best and Krieger?
Baptist and Krieger, they make an excellent presentation, the attorneys, on what LAFCO's responsibilities are. But I just want to commend you for that, Kai, and also the LAFCO 101. And definitely, I am going to talk to our staff to put this presentation before the Oxnard City Council so they can fully understand what LAFCO does, to some degree. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I believe we have a receive and file. Is there a motion to
So move.
Second?
second? Rochelle?
Commissioner Avila? Yes. Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes.
Commissioner Lavere?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Rooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Yes.
Chair Richards?
Yes. Okay, moving on to item 17, the current and anticipated proposals and matters before LAFCO. Kai, you're up again.
All right, thank you, Chair. This item is just, it's a discussion, more kind of an informative item, just to bring the commission up to speed on some of the more significant projects and proposals that will be coming to the commission for consideration in the near or fairly near future. Keep in mind that, staff is working on things that go well beyond this list, but these are some of the more significant items. So I'll go over each of these briefly, and feel free to ask questions. So we'll start with the first one. This has already been discussed a little bit in public comments. This is regarding the municipal service review for the Bell Canyon Community Services District. Bell Canyon is located on the extreme east end of the county. It's only accessible through the city of Los Angeles. It's a gated community. It's a private community. They have an HOA, as you heard, but they also have a community services district. Beginning almost 2 years ago, LAFCO staff began the process to prepare a municipal service review for the district. That municipal service review did identify some issues that the CSD was faced with, and the CSD, after a lot of time giving the commission gave the CSD a lot of time to work through some of the issues that it had with the MSR. But in March of last year, the commission did accept the municipal service review unanimously. And the commission gave the CSD 1 year to try to address the issues that were brought up in the MSR. Now, the MSR process is complete. It's over. The MSR was accepted about a year ago. The sphere of influence review process is still ongoing. So at the March meeting, the commission will be considering what to do with the district's municipal service review. We, of course, will have a recommendation, but there will also be options provided to the commission. And a whole lot will kind of depend on how successful the CSD has been in adopting or in addressing the concerns expressed by the commission. So that's the first item.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Will they have the opportunity to not be surprised by anything prior to the meeting in March?
Well, surprised as far as what the recommendation will be?
Yes.
Well, we probably won't share our recommendation prior to sharing that with the commission. Yeah, we tend to avoid getting, the public getting out in front of what the commission knows.
Okay, well, it would be nice to have the opportunity for them to see the information in time to kind of respond to the information. If we know some of the information now, I mean, so we can avoid any really big thing going on in March. I mean, that's all I'm trying to do here.
No, and staff, a whole lot is going to depend on how successful the district has been in addressing the matters. If the commission, if the district has been successful in addressing most or not all, I think I will certainly share that with the commission or with the district and kind of telegraph what our recommendation will be. And I suppose if they haven't been successful, I can certainly, let them know that this will be brought up at the commission.
That would be great. I think that would be very helpful.
Certainly, yeah, I can give them as much as possible, yeah,
Yeah.
given the time constraints.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the second one is municipal service reviews for the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and Calleguas Municipal Water District. As I'm sure you know, Calleguas is the member agency for the Metropolitan Water District that and provides water for most of the developed areas in Ventura County. As I mentioned, we are required to do MSRs periodically, and some time ago, we're not sure when, but the decision was made that LAFCO does not have jurisdiction over metropolitan water districts. And as a result, LAFCO was never approving changes to the boundaries of Metropolitan Water District. They had a process that I don't know, that they thought was complying with the law. It turns out that LAFCO does in fact have jurisdiction over metropolitan water agencies, and that changes of organization or changes to their boundaries did require LAFCO approval. So this started a rather long process to determine what the current boundaries are of metropolitan as understood by metropolitan, align those boundaries with Calleguas to the degree possible, and then bring to the commission kind of a way to recognize what those boundaries are and addressing the inconsistencies with Calleguas. And then the commission needs to establish a sphere of influence. The commission needs to do all of this in order to start regulating the boundaries of metropolitan. That, of course, requires the preparation of a municipal service review. So we're in the process of preparing municipal service reviews for both Calleguas and both metropolitan. And we hope to bring those to the commission in March. And then beyond that, LAFCO actions related to Calleguas will always include a related action to the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Hope that makes sense. Okay. The third is, these are municipal service reviews for various districts that provide water and wastewater services. There are 28 special districts in the county that provide these services. The last time that the MSR for these districts was prepared was 2004. So they are pretty much out of date. So LAFCO's staff brought to the commission a work product to update these MSRs and prepare new MSRs, updated MSRs for all 28 of these districts. That, of course, got delayed with COVID, et cetera, and we're still in the process of doing it. To date, 20 have been accepted by the commission. And so we have 8 more that will come to the commission at some point in the future. Again, we're shooting for some out on the March agenda. So. The next is a Ventura Water Pure project. This is part of the city's effort to recycle wastewater. And they need a couple of facilities to do this. It includes an outfall out in the ocean. It's a rather extensive project. This is just a part of it. We met with the city, about 2 years ago, and worked with them to identify what would be kind of the most appropriate location for some of these facilities. They ended up deciding on this piece of property, which is at the location, it's at the southeast corner of Harbor and what's the other street? Olivas. It's in the unincorporated county, and it will require annexation as well as approval from the Coastal Commission. But we met with the city most recently just last month and are just coordinating with them to help this process move forward. Then we have the Santa Paula West Business Park. Of course, that's the city of Santa Paula, and this is on the east end of the city. It's 64 acres in size. It's a combination of office, manufacturing, research and development, and other commercial uses. This application was actually submitted to us about a year ago, but they had some issues they needed to address regarding flooding primarily. This area is within the city's sphere of influence. I know it's not shown there, but it is. It's within the city's urban restriction boundaries, so it would not be subject to SOAR. The city will need to, I think, amend their general plan for it and then pre-zone it and then come to the commission. It's, then we'll schedule it for the commission. And it's also not subject to a green belt. So the major hurdles for this development are non-existent. Then we have the Rio del Valle Middle School. This is located just north of the city of Oxnard, next to the community of El Rio. The middle school exists now, it's not depicted here. But they want to expand. They want to expand onto 10 acres that is located abutting the city on the bottom of that circle. And it's located between the existing school and the city boundaries. So they want to put some classroom facilities there, and then also a transportation facility, a bus parking and bus repair. And then they're also talking about, they own the 10 acres on the north side, but they want to keep that in agriculture as part of a school program. This development is located in a green belt, so that green belt will have to be amended. Camarillo, Oxnard, and the county will all have to agree to that amendment. It is outside of the city's curb, so it is subject to SOAR, though there are provisions in the city's SOAR that allow for public facilities without a vote of the people. So it may qualify for that. There's questions about the bus depot, though, the transportation facility. And it's consistent with the guidelines of development because they are pursuing annexation to the city of Oxnard. The city of Oxnard will need to amend its general plan. It's currently outside the general plan in agriculture, and the city will have to approve a land use entitlement for the bus transportation facility. School districts can usually exempt themselves from local ordinances, but only for educational facilities, and the bus facility does not comply with that. So that is, I think it was just discussed at the city council last night.
We were up
and-
till about midnight last night.
And we expect that in the next few months. They're finalizing the EIR, maybe a little bit longer than that, given the city's concerns.
Yeah.
And this is the Simi Valley North Canyon Ranch project. It's, excuse me. It's just north of the Simi Valley Town Center. It is it's a 160 acre development to accommodate 209 residential units. It's within the city's sphere of influence. It's not subject to their SOAR. It's within the curve, the city urban restriction boundary. It's not in a greenbelt. The city will amend its general plan to accommodate the project and pre-zone the project and see no significant issues before that comes to the commission, save for commission policy regarding the unincorporated islands. As you can see in this map, there are several unincorporated islands. An unincorporated island is a piece of territory that's developed, that's not in the city, but surrounded by a city. There's provisions in LAFCO law that they prevent this from occurring now, and it encourages that existing ones be annexed to the city when the time is right. The commission has an adopted policy that if a city that does have unincorporated islands applies to LAFCO for an unrelated annexation that exceeds 40 acres, the commission, if it approves that annexation, it will impose a condition of approval that the city seek annexation of those unincorporated islands. So much does the legislature want these islands annexed that they included a process in LAFCO law by which if a city applies to LAFCO under that provision, LAFCO has no discretion whatsoever other than to approve it. And the residents and property owners have absolutely no say in it. The protest process, which would normally exist, is removed. So if the commission applies that condition and we receive that application, it's a foregone conclusion that the annexation will occur. I have attended a couple of community meetings and received a lot of feedback from residents who oppose it. They oppose being annexed. And so that's going to play out over the next several months. So, any questions? Okay, and I should say that policy has been applied by this commission to other cities. It was applied most recently to the city of Ventura, which did come in and annex their islands. Santa Paula proactively went and annexed their islands, so they didn't have to deal with this policy at a later date. And Oxnard also did that as well. And the last is water consolidation program in South Oxnard. This was relatively new and unexpected. Not too long ago, the state passed a law that for certain communities that meet certain conditions, the state water boards can come in and require that a service provider extend services out to where it's needed. In this case, there's two mobile home parks, very low income community. They do not have public service. They don't have public water. They don't have public sewer. They are plagued by failing septic systems. It really is a mess out there. And there's been talk over the years and years about Oxnard extending services down there. This is outside the sphere of influence, but failing septic systems is a public health and safety threat. So, I mean, certainly LAFCO can support this. So the water board, their approach is not to just require this to happen. They want to go through the process. They want to go through LAFCO and receive LAFCO's approval. So that's why we met with them. So they're still in discussions. They may have some funding to help the city of Oxnard pay for the extension of those services. So we will continue to be meeting with them, and we will also be meeting with them in the near future about provision of water to these same mobile home parks. And I think
Mr. Chair, does the Coastal Commission have to approve that because we're within the 3 miles from the?
Is it 3? I don't think it's 3 miles. The
Isn't it
coastal-
3
it's
miles?
I think it's 1,000 feet from the shore inland where the Coastal Commission has jurisdiction.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember, Andrea? Is it 1,000 feet? It's called the coastal zone, and I think it's 1,000 feet. So anything
1,000
beyond
feet.
that 1,000 feet is not subject to Coastal
Part
Commission.
of the coastal, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And I think that was it. Yes. So any questions on that?
So this is for the March,
Well, we don't know specifically yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but things are still kind of playing out. So either March or soon thereafter, we're
okay,
thinking.
thank you.
And a lot of it's outside of our control, but things we're just monitoring.
Any other comments, questions from the commission? Okay.
Thank you.
Hearing none, I believe that this is then also a receive and file item. We have a motion,
Motion to receive and file.
second.
Did you have any public comments on this item? I thought I remember.
We have nobody
again?
with their
Any
hand
speakers?
raised on Zoom. We have several people on Zoom, but nobody with a raised hand.
That's 17, yeah.
Okay. Shall we move on?
I thought,
Did we have speakers for 17?
No, we have Eric Wilfred's raised his hand now.
I'm sorry.
didn't someone have
Did someone have their hand up?
Eric Wolf.
I see a hand,
Okay.
Eric.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to make a quick comment. Most of my comments are going to be in 18. On the sphere review, it would be very helpful if we got it in advance. There were several things that we did need to fix that were brought, and we appreciate that, and we have done so. Several things there was nothing to fix, so there was nothing to fix. But I would really much appreciate if Mr. Luoma would work with us and in advance to tell us what things he feels that we have not fixed. The problem that we're having is all these letters come in from Yossi and Mike and Mickey, all people with an agenda. And I want to make sure that doesn't pre-prejudice the commission as well as Kai. So if he would please reach out to us, and we would love to share with him what we have done. And we're excited to share all the stuff that we've done. That's all I have on this item. Mike, did you want to say something on this item? Mike's Michael Robkin. He's the new president of the Bell Canyon CSD. His computer isn't working correctly, but he would like to speak. So I'm going to hand him my headset.
Rochelle, did you get that name?
I did, thank you.
Yes, it's Michael Robkin. You guys hear me now, right?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Michael Robkin. I'm the president of the Bell Canyon. In reference to item 17, letter from Teresa Jordan. I would like to read a short comment from Greg McHugh of our Fire Safe Council in regards to that attachment. So from Greg McHugh, I want to thank LAFCO for recognizing the dire plight of Bell Canyon in fire prevention and protection by publishing the critique of an admitted first draft of a community wildfire protection plan for Bell Canyon. You may not be aware that Ventura County Fire Department does not provide first responder fire protection to us because it takes VCFD 30 to 45 minutes to reach Bell Canyon's gate from Simi Valley. I requested several times they will not establish a fire protection capability in Bell Canyon. Instead, Ventura County Fire contracts with Los Angeles Fire Department to act as first responder for fire and emergency medical services. Bell Canyon will continue to work on fire prevention and fire suppression capability by expanding the activities of both our Fire Safe Council and our volunteer Wildland Fire Department. Thank you very much for your support. That's it.
All right, thank you, sir. And any other comments? Okay, hearing none, entertain a
Well, that
motion.
was a first, I think, but
Say again?
you made a motion to approve.
Okay. Have a second?
I'll second it.
All right,
Sorry, the second.
Saragossa, second.
I have to call the roll.
Commissioner Avila,
Yes.
Commissioner Crosswhite,
Yes.
Commissioner Lavere,
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin,
Yes.
Commissioner Rooney,
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza,
Yes.
and Chair Richards.
Yes. Okay, moving on to correspondence received. Any comments with regards to that item? I think we have Mr. Wolf wanting to comment.
If I may, Chair
Tom.
Richards, can I just provide a little background of the purpose of correspondence received?
I'm sorry, the background with regards to.
Right, just an explanation of what the intent of that agenda item is.
Certainly, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So correspondence received is an item that commission policies require to be on each meeting agenda. This is not unusual. Most agencies have such an item on their agendas. And this is just a receive and file item. It's just intended to be informative to the commission, and that's it. As I said, there's no action required. The correspondence received is used by staff to provide the commission with correspondence that has been received by staff that's been directed to the commission, but not given to the commission. And so we use it to provide these correspondence to the commission. It's irrelevant what the content of the letters are. They don't have to be relevant to anything. It's up to the commission to determine the relevancy. We also use this to provide to the commission correspondence that may have been received by not the full commission, but just a limited number of commissioners, but really should be shared with the full commission. So we provide that, we put that on comments received so the full commission can receive it. And then we also just use this as a place for any other correspondence that we feel would be of the interest of commissioners. Now, placing an item under correspondence received is a decision that staff makes, along with consultation with legal counsel, and if necessary, with the chair and the vice chair. Again, the content of the letters, it doesn't necessarily reflect the opinions of staff or legal counsel or any of the commissioners. It's informative only. And there, again, no requirement that the content be relevant. The relevance of the content, again, is up to each commissioner to determine his or herself. Now, the comment letter from Mr. Kaviativsky, and I apologize if I pronounced that, was received by 3 commissioners and the executive officer. So in consultation with legal counsel and Chair Richards, we concluded that this information should be given to the full commission. So it's just not available to a limited number of commissioners. It does specify LAFCO. LAFCO is mentioned in this correspondence, as well as the Bell Canyon CSD, which of course is undergoing the sphere of influence review. And those are the reasons why it was placed on the agenda. And that's all. I just wanted to preface any further discussion with that. Thank you.
I believe we received some additional correspondence at today's meeting. Did
We
you
have a
need,
hand raised for Yossi Kapkatsky.
you have a hand raised that wants to comment?
I'm sorry?
I'd like to finish my
Oh, I'm sorry.
sentence. We received 3 documents that you provided to us. Those are identified. Did you just identify those, or do we have to identify it?
Yeah, we should probably call attention to those. Those were, 2 of them were emailed to, I don't know if all of the commissioners got them, late last night, one after 9 and one after 11. I put them on the dais just in case you didn't receive them. And then one was received this morning, and for the same reason I placed that on the dais. I didn't have the time to make sure that they were emailed to everybody. So those will be part of the record. Everything that comes to the commission is, becomes part of the record.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And then just one last thing, if I may, I'm keeping track of the cumulative time that members of the public have spoken. When they reach that 5 minutes, I'd be happy to let you know when that happens.
All right. Thank you very much, Guy. Michelle, you had a hand raised on comments?
Yes, we have Yossi Kavatsky. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go
Can you
ahead.
hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Yossi Kwiatkowski. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing my letter up as an agenda item to your session. As you might know, I'm a duly elected member of the Bell Canyon Board of Directors. I am not a developer. I ran for the board primarily on a single issue, and that was getting out of a lawsuit I thought was a losing case for Bell Canyon. I won my seat. Eric Wolf has made it a point to defame me even before I won my seat, including on Nextdoor, where he called me a despicable Jew, all because I read the lawsuit and disagreed with him and made my disagreement public. Eric Wolf despises anyone who disagrees with him. He's convinced he can talk you into his view, and if you disagree, he deems you an enemy to be discredited and destroyed. I was urged by community members to respond to his despicable Jew comment, but at the time I chose not to. I got elected twice, despite Mr. Wolf and Mr. Richard Levy doing their best to malign me, getting more votes than Mr. Wolf or Mr. Levy. Mr. Wolf has continued his defamation campaign and lies about me ever since. Mr. Richard Levy, who also sits on both the HOA Board of Directors and the Bell Canyon CSD, followed Mr. Wolf as president of the Bell Canyon CSD. Mr. Levy has contributed to and supported Mr. Wolf in their defamation campaign against me. Just as a side note and off the subject, their sitting on both boards is a huge conflict of interest and was addressed by LAFCO at the last MSR. An MSR that was accepted by the Bell Canyon CSD board, represented by its then president, Dennis Roy, who resigned abruptly after his presentation to you. Yet they still sit on both boards in defiance. The continuous campaign to defame me reached new heights. You have the quotes from my email in front of you. Mr. Levy called me Hitler-like and quote, "Your behavior is exactly like Hitler, and I hope you're proud that you are following in his footsteps," unquote. He continues to quote, he gained power over his enemies by
Excuse me, Mr.
vilifying the Jews.
Excuse
He
me,
had no
Mr.
evidence to support his claim, yet the people believed his lies, and as a result, 6 million of our people were murdered.
Sir,
When I called Mr. Levy,
Mr. Karowski,
When I-
I'm sorry if I mispronounced your
sir.
last name, but can you stick with the
Okay.
facts that are before LAFCO at the present time? I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So this is directly in my letter. When I called for Mr. Levy's censure for his vile racist comments at the HOA meeting, Mr. Wolf said he should have used Goebbels instead. Joseph Goebbels was the architect of the final solution. He declared in Munich free of Jews and appointed Adolf Eichmann to administer the final solution, the murder of an entire race. This time I did respond to Mr. Levy, calling him a self-hating Jew. his unbelievable response was, he
Sir.
can't be a self-hating Jew because
Sir.
he never bought a German cow. Yes.
Sir, I'm sorry for interrupting you again, but please stay with the matters that are before LAFCO. Personal identification is not necessary for your comments. Please continue.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Levere. Can I interrupt? I mean, I feel like we're hearing about an HOA fight, and I don't know what the relevancy is to LAFCO.
Can I answer that? Can I answer that?
Yes, you can
As
answer.
to why I think this is relevant to LAFCO? Both Richard Levy and Mr. Wolf are CSD board members, both past presidents of the CSD, and now sit on the HOA board. That's the conflict of interest. They sit on both, and their vile comments are directed at me for bringing out issues that have to do with the CSD as well as the HOA. That's why this is relevant. These people should not be sitting on, with those type of comments and attitude, should not be sitting on a CSD board. Is that kind of answer? I mean, is that an answer to your question?
I'm assuming it is. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just continue.
Chair Richards, excuse me, Chair Richards.
Yes.
You know, I mean, if we go back to what LAFCO's position is, it's not to determine whether or not a board member should be sitting on a CSD or not. I mean, that's not the role of LAFCO. So I think that these comments are personal, they're defamatory, and they're irrelevant to the subject of LAFCO that we have on the agenda item right now.
I agree. I'm trying to get him on point. So.
Okay, so I will tell you what, I appreciate the comment, and I will stop my comments only to say that initially in public comment, Richard Levy made comments about me that I'm lying and I'm
Sir.
scaring and I'm doing all that kind of stuff. And nobody said anything to stop him from that personal attack that had no place in public comments. So
Sir,
it's okay with me.
sorry,
I mean,
your-
I
Your
respect what
time
you're
has
saying.
expired, sir. So thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eric Wolf?
And I believe I have another comment, Mr. Wolf.
Yes, I think this illustrates exactly why this types of comments should not be in the LAFCO record. So unless you guys want LAFCO to turn into a next door Bell Canyon, or one of those next door Facebooks where it's just everyone's like a free for all, this is just ridiculous. It's not germane to anything that LAFCO is doing. Now, obviously, what he's saying is untrue. I'm not going to get into it. Obviously, he's sending these letters, but that's not the point. The point is, why should these letters be in public comment? So anyone, okay, let's leave Yossi out of this. Anyone could write about someone's marital affair, someone's nasty divorce, come to LAFCO, and under any type of agenda item is going to put something in there and turn it into public record. This is the problem, that it turns into public record. Then you take that to court and say, hey, this is public. So it's not defamation, it's public record. So it can be reproduced and republished by others. That is the problem with putting this type of defamatory statements in the letter. And Kai has done this over and over. So tomorrow, if someone has something, and I'm sure Kai is a decent, but let's say someone makes something up about Kai, whatever, and puts it in, is that also, you can't turn these government agencies into just a free-for-all of defamation. It's just with social media and the way the news is and the fake news, everyone can say whatever they want. Defamation lawsuits are too expensive. So I really feel that these types of letters should not be in. They should be on the subject matter. If Yossi has something to say about the MSR or about the sphere of influence, sure, but it's just irrelevant. So I strongly urge the commission not to accept this into public record. It's defamatory and damaging, and it's just not germane. And it's very clear in your handbook and the law. It should not be in there. What Kai is saying is simply incorrect. It should not be in there. And that's all I have to say on this matter. I believe that, as
Mr.
you know,
Wolf?
Michael Robkin would like to speak. Really
Mr.
quick, if
Wolf,
I have another
Mr.
few
Wolf,
seconds.
Your
Kai
time
has
is,
not been fair
Mr.
to
Wolf, your
us,
time has expired. I appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. And I believe that possibly county council may explain a little with regards to documents that we receive.
Yeah, and I thought Mr. Luama explained well the purpose of the correspondence agenda. Staff's not taking a position on any letter. I agree with him 100% that there is a nexus between the comment letter that Mr. Wolf is complaining about and LAFCO. But taking a step back, in our country, we have the First Amendment that really frowns upon what's called the prior restraint. And so it sounds like the suggestion is for staff to basically censor letters that someone else believes are defamatory or irrelevant. I would highly recommend against going down that route, because if staff is going to do that, first of all, it will take a lot of time. It will take a lot of my time, and the First Amendment is not at all favorable to public agencies censoring letters based upon their content. And so, again, I think it's a bad idea, and Chair, I think it was valid for you to tell commenters to avoid personal attacks. I think the same should go to letters that are submitted. I don't think it furthers the public process. That's my personal view. And so, what I'm hearing is that the commission doesn't appreciate that. So maybe everyone in attendance can take that to heart going forward. But again, I would highly recommend against staff censoring letters and keeping letters from your commission based upon the contents.
Thank you for the clarity. I believe we have another comment from the Commissioner.
Yeah, from my previous understanding, I agree with council. That's what I've understood from previous meetings. I don't appreciate the personal attacks on anybody, right? But all of this is public record, and just like the letters, we should not. I don't feel like we should be telling the public what they can or can't say, just like the letters. I think it could put us in a bad spot possibly, and it's their 3-5 minutes to say whatever they want to keep us out of any trouble, I think. Is that how it works, council?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, that all sounded good.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did you have a comment, Jeff?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Just said informally that I concur with the commissioner.
All right, thank you. John?
And I just want to assure too that they have the constitutional right to share with the public their feelings and so forth. I think the most important part is to keep away from personal attacks, which I think is extremely important. Thank you.
Chair?
Yes.
There have been a number of comments made in prior meetings that some of the new commissioners maybe weren't part of, but that really didn't have any relevance to the topic at hand, although they have the legal right to make these comments. They're very hurtful, they're painful, they're mean. And there's, who knows whether they're verified or not. It's just unfortunate that we can't put some kind of a paragraph in front of it saying these are unverified statements. I wish we could do that, but I guess we can't do that either, right?
I don't see a legal issue with us explaining the purpose of the correspondence and that they're not created by LAFCO staff. As Kai stated, it's not LAFCO's opinion, and we haven't researched, so we can look into that.
That would be really great, only because there's been so many comments being made, and even today, there's some new comments being made that are really irrelevant, in my opinion, to the agenda item. So I'd just like to see that, because when those comments are taken out of context and put in social media, at least somebody can refer back to, these are not unverified comments made by people referencing an agenda item at LAFCO. I would feel more comfortable that way.
I'm with Commissioner Parvin. Maybe we could for future agendas, where correspondence received, we can add a note that just says, each correspondence is the opinion of the person that sent it in, and not the opinion of the council. Maybe something like that.
Would that work as, just place that note on the agendas? That
Disclaimer.
I think that's a great idea.
Maybe as long as it says it's unverified, no matter what the person said, it's just not verified by our LAFCO commission. Unless you have time to verify these things,
Whoa.
and I don't think we do. I
Right.
just-
Well, and I guess that speaks to some of them might be accurate.
Yes, I would
in the
agree with that.
correspond- Yeah.
And they're
some-
relevant to the agenda item,
Right.
right?
But
Like
saying a
Teresa
blank-
Jordan, some of her comments to me were specific to an agenda item.
I'll work with legal counsel, and we can either bring it back to the commission for approval or just implement it, whatever your desire is.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
Sure, of course.
Thank you, Guy. Michelle, I understand we still have two more
Yes, we have
speakers.
Leon.
And I would caution them to stay with the facts before LAFCO. Refrain from any personal comments.
Leon is muted. There we are.
I'm sorry, who's up?
Hello.
Leon?
Hello, proceed, please.
Hello.
Does Leon have a last name?
Yeah, this is Lee Blanco. And my comment is that Eric Wolf and Richard Levy, the public officials which cannot publish and defame other people in the community, and and say hatred things. It's like racist, and my entire family been wiped in the Holocaust, and I cannot accept those comments as a Hitler or Nazi. So therefore, my opinion, my personal opinion, those people need to step down from public office which they represent. We don't need people like this to represent us. This is all I have to say right now.
All right, thank you very much, sir. We have one more,
Michael Robkin.
Michael Robkin. Mr. Robkin, you're available?
You need to unmute me there.
Can we hear you?
Unmute Eric.
Can't hear you. Still cannot hear you. Still cannot hear you.
Eric Wolf has his hand raised. Maybe he's going to speak through him.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf's
Yeah,
already had
that's
his
correct.
time.
Yes, I'm going to hand you over to Michael Robkin. Can you hear me?
Yes, are you going to hand it over to?
Okay. Yes, I'm handing over. Yes.
Okay, hello. Sorry about the technical confusion.
Please identify yourself for the record, please.
This is Michael Robkin. I'm the president of the Bell Canyon CSD.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I believe I have about 4.5 minutes left. My comment is for agenda item 18, attachment 1, which is a letter of accommodation, Kylie Oman, dated December 12th, 2022. We have questions about this letter that need to be clarified if we are to fully resolve all the valid issues identified in our MSR. The MSR did point out deficiencies in the Bell Canyon CSD operations, for which we are extremely grateful. Bell Canyon CSD is seeking clarification from LAFCO commissioners on questions of both institutional values and LAFCO policies, so that we can work more cooperatively and collaboratively with LAFCO as we all work together to resolve the remaining issues in the MSR. I note that this letter praises Executive Director Leoma for his adherence to Ventura LAFCO's adopted administrative manual. Later, it states that commissioners have noted you have exhibited professionalism, objectiveness, cooperation, and approachability to commissioners, applicants, and the public. I will point out some aspects of this that are confusing to us in light of the text of that attachment. On February 9th, 21, at the beginning of the MSR process, Mr. Leoma emailed then General Manager Dennis Zine asking that Mr. Zine and only Mr. Zine respond to the MSR. Furthermore, specifically requesting that Mr. Zine not involve the CSD directors. We could find no statute or policy in an administrative LAFCO or governor's manual that supports this request. In addition, we don't understand how Ventura LAFCO values of professionalism and cooperation are embodied in a request not to involve CSD directors in an MSR. On 10/1/21, Mr. Leoma emailed former Bell Canyon CSD Director Michael Glassman and stated, quote, LAFCO staff will not be working with BC CSD to resolve any issues in the MSR, unquote. I know this contradicts commission direction from 9/15/21 to work with BC CSD to resolve issues. It does not seem consistent with the values of either cooperation or approachability described in the agenda attachment. Just before the 8/13/21 meeting between Mr. Leoma and Bell Canyon CSE Director Michael Glassman, Mr. Leoma refused to provide a copy of the MSR to Michael Glassman.
Okay, sir, I'm confused. Are you speaking with regards to the letter of accommodation, or which item are you
Yes.
referring to on 18?
Yes, agenda item 18, attachment 1, letter of commendation to Kai Leoma. That is the
Yeah,
one I'm speaking to.
I fail to understand how some of your comments are associated with that letter.
In that letter, it states, I'm quoting from the letter, commissioners have noted that you have exhibited professionalism, objectiveness, cooperation, and approachability to commissioners and applicants. I am looking for clarification for what LAFCO considers to be professionalism, objectiveness, cooperation, and approachability, because I do not understand those values as defined in our experience with the MSR. I'm seeking clarification from the commissioners so they can resolve the apparent distinction and difference between the behavior, attitude, communications of Mr. Leoma and the LAFCO administrative and governor's manuals, policies, and the expressed institutional values of the LAFCO Commission.
I know. Okay,
May I continue?
Thank you, sir. I believe your time has expired. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
My time was expired because I was interrupted.
All right. Thank you. I believe we have a motion for acceptance of item 18.
No. I have some comments, Chair Richards.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. This is regarding the first item, the letter of commendation to Mr. Loma, the letter dated December 10th. So I appreciate the time and the effort that has gone into preparing this receive and file item for the commission. However, I'd like to request that this item be continued, just this first one, be continued because it may not accurately reflect the outcome of the formal written evaluation. Additionally, 3 or more commissioners were not able to attend the closed session to provide the executive director with comments on his performance that this letter purports to describe as unanimous. Because I had a family emergency, I was not able to attend. I did ask to defer this evaluation to a later time so I could provide comments. And the executive director and/or the 4-member commission at that meeting took no action. Accordingly, Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this item to our next regular meeting and that you direct staff to place a closed session item to be added to that same meeting to allow the board to clarify and/or discuss in closed session as required by the Brown Act. And that's my motion.
This is Commissioner Levere. I was part of the group that couldn't make it in December, and I had asked that it be delayed as well, and I never got a response. But so I would second that motion.
And Jeff Barnes, Commission Counsel, just to clarify, is your request to add an evaluation of the executive director to a subsequent closed session?
No.
Well, I think the closed session agenda item needs to be the executive director performance evaluation, of which is the outcome, which a lot of us were not there, and the outcome of this unusual letter that was written as a letter of commendation, which I have never Since I've been a part of this commission, there's never been a letter of commendation written after an evaluation, so I think it's unusual. And also, I wasn't able to give Mr. Lama my comments and clarification of the items that he sought. And so I think that there's 3 members that currently sit on the commission now that were not able to give him comments directly from the commissioners, and I think that that's important. So I understand that under the Brown Act, it needs to go into closed session because it's a personnel matter.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing you said, but I just want to confirm that you're requesting that a closed session be added to a subsequent meeting agenda for evaluation of the executive director. Is that correct?
Yes, and to move this current letter of commendation, move it to that following meeting.
Well, I'm not sure, I mean, the letter is what it is. This is a correspondence agenda. Your board is more than welcome to discuss the letter in that context. I'm not sure what it means to move a letter into closed session. It's part of today's meeting, so.
Mr. Barnes, I believe that this letter is misleading based upon everything that I know. I don't want to carry out these conversations in open session, because it's a personnel matter. But I think that this letter needs to be held and not approved today and moved to that following meeting.
I believe the action's already been taken.
Yeah, Mr.
Is it
Mr. Chair,
a
can,
personal matter?
I was part of that, but this is a personnel issue. Isn't that an HR issue that was already, by the way, when we were there were other commissioners were invited to Zoom in to participate. And to me, this is a personnel issue more than anything else. I'm not sure if it's legal to even bring it up.
It is, the evaluation would need to occur in closed session, but you raise a good point. If the evaluation, which is supposed to be an annual event, has concluded, and that's something I'd be happy to look into, and it's up to your board, and I don't want to get ahead of your board. If there's interest in going that route, then one thing that I would need to look at is whether another evaluation could be convened right now, given the status of the previous one, in which my understanding was it was concluded.
It was completed, yeah.
Yes, and,
Chair Richards?
and I would suggest getting clarification on the motion, again, just to be crystal clear what's the request is.
That's a request.
My motion is to not approve this letter of commendation and to establish at the next regular meeting an evaluation of the executive director. That's my motion. That's what was seconded. And, my feeling here is that you have 3 current sitting commissioners that were not able to provide Mr. Loma with our comments because of the scheduling of the meeting. And in my case, I had an emergency and could not come. And so I think that it's valuable to him. And I think that this letter, why I think that this letter should be held and not approved today, is that I believe this letter is misleading. And it's not a unanimous decision of the commission because you only had 4 members there. So it's misleading to say it was unanimously requested. So that's why I'm suggesting that it not be approved today and it be moved to the following closed session. That was my motion. That was seconded.
I have a question. Could it be brought back in terms of addition to a performance appraisal in addition to? Because I would agree with Marianne that I wasn't able to participate because I wasn't elected at the time. I had just left my office as mayor and had not yet started my position as a supervisor, so I was odd man out. So therefore, I wasn't invited and I could not participate, although I did have comments. So I would agree with her that it would be great to have the opportunity to at least discuss those things that some of us weren't able to share. I think it's probably a good thing to do, but maybe we don't call it this letter, but we call it something about additional performance
But Mr. Chair,
review?
I just want to show that we had a quorum in closed session when we evaluated
True.
Mr. Kai. And consequently, we voted on that, and people were invited to Zoom, and people could make it, but the quorum was there, and it was a valid quorum, you know. And to me, again, this is a personal issue more than anything else. That's my personal opinion.
I hear both sides, but at the same time, I feel like we weren't really done, and some of us did not have that opportunity.
Jeff, once the personnel evaluation is completed, isn't that in its totality a final action? And how can we bring that back now and revisit that?
Right, that's something that I can look into, whether, in my sense is it's perhaps possible to, as Commissioner Parvin says, to have a closed session discussion on performance, even if it's not an annual evaluation. That's something that I would be more comfortable looking at and confirming. And so, you know, if your board would like to vote on the motion, it could be subject to me doing that and working with the chair to making sure that's appropriate, and if so, to make sure we get the right closed session agenda description.
Okay, we have a motion and a second currently. We should take an action on that prior to entertaining the motion to return the matter to the attorney for review and consideration. So we have Ms. Roney's motion and a second.
But Levere.
I think we need to take action on that. Michelle, you want to take a vote?
Yes, I will. Commissioner Avila?
I abstain.
I'm sorry?
I abstain.
Commissioner Crosswhite?
So are we not giving the mover of the motion the opportunity to amend their motion? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what it sounds like.
Then I'm going to abstain.
Commissioner Parvin?
I move, I agree with what our legal counsel's advising us. Is it a way for us to bring that back before we move forward on
We
this?
have to take an action on the motion at the present time.
Okay, well then, I agree with Ms. Rennie's proposal.
Commissioner Rooney?
Where'd she go?
Commissioner Rooney? Oh, she's lost. Commissioner
I'm
Levy-
sorry,
Commissioner Levere?
Yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
No.
sorry,
Commissioner Rooney?
my computer died. I just checked back in. Could you please refresh the last 2 minutes?
Refresh.
What happened?
We're taking a roll call vote for your motion.
Okay, could you go back and tell me how the vote has gone so far?
Commissioner Avila has abstained. Commissioner Crosswhite has abstained. Commissioner Parvin is a yes. Commissioner Zaragoza is no. Commissioner Levere is yes.
Okay. Is it my turn to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Did-
3-2.
No.
It fails.
Failed.
So that means 3-2 vote, the motion fails because 4 affirmative votes are required for the commission to take action.
That's correct.
Thank you.
We have a motion pertaining to our county council's review.
Can I make a motion? I think Jeff's comments, I wanted to make a motion based on Jeff's comments that we bring it back as just a review, a performance review, subject to his research about the validity of that.
That's a motion? If that's a motion, I'll second.
That'd be,
We have a motion and a second. Any comments?
I wasn't here for the past, year. I don't know what the performance was, so I'm gonna stick with abstain.
Commissioner Avila?
I abstain.
I'm sorry?
I abstain.
Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Rooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Lavere?
yes.
Commissioner Zaragoza?
No.
Chair Richards? Chair Richards?
Yes.
That is 4-1. I'm sorry, 5-1.
So just to clarify, with that motion, does that mean that the letter of commendation will not be approved on this agenda item?
That's right.
Will be approved.
Was not approved.
The short answer is the letter was not part of Commissioner
right.
Laviere's motion, so the letter basically stands, and, I mean, the letter is already part of the correspondence agenda anyway, so it wouldn't require
Okay, I'd like to
additional
make a
approval.
motion, please, Mr. Chair. I move that we suspend the letter of commendation to make it coterminous with the discussion that we have that will be in closed session.
Didn't we just vote against that?
Yeah.
I thought we just took that action.
Yeah.
Did we not take the action to receive and file?
My understanding is that first vote was on my motion to place it into closed session. We didn't do the motion to receive and file. So that's why I'm making the second motion to make that letter of commendation to go along with the motion that was just approved to move it into closed session.
Do we have, then we'll take a motion to receive and file on item 18,
Do we have a seconder?
To receive and file.
to receive and file.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
No, that's not my motion. My motion is to move the letter of commendation off of the correspondence received file to make it coterminous with the closed session agenda item. That's my
Sorry.
motion.
Misunderstood.
But I mean, in my legal opinion, it would be more appropriate for someone to move to either receive and file or not receive and file the subject letter, because that would be the action that would be before the commission.
That's true.
Okay, I'll amend my motion then, that we pull the first item off of the receive and file agenda and to receive the other correspondence received. That's my motion.
What was the motion?
Call.
Mr. Barnes, I have a question. Is it, in the future closed session, wouldn't we be able to bring this letter with us for discussion in closed session?
Yes,
Okay.
and the letter was already, it was a byproduct of the previous closed session. The commission could do another letter. I'm not sure how you unapprove a letter. So I'm a little confused, but no, I think you're on the right track.
You're not a little confused. I feel the same way when it comes to this letter, but I believe we could talk about this in closed session within that discussion for the future agenda items.
So, you need a motion to approve 18.
I made a motion to approve 18, except for the first item, the first letter, the letter of commendation. So I made to pull that one, to not approve that, and to approve the other two. That's my motion.
Are we allowed to do that? As I understand, previous commission approved that letter.
That's right.
Four votes. It's a yes. Whether we like it or not, whether you want to do another letter
If
or
we had a
not,
quorum.
this letter
The
was already
commission didn't
approved.
approve the letter. The commission did not approve that letter.
Okay,
That came after the
one at a
meeting.
time, please, one at a time. Ms. Avalon.
I was just saying that they already did a review on him. Whether all the board commission was there or not, it was approved by 4 members. And I'm speaking here as someone from an outside view. I don't know the history, but commission made a decision. And I think with Mary Ann's previous motion about the closed session, I think you could potentially make another letter, but this letter is done,
And there was a quorum,
in my opinion.
and legal, and there was a quorum that approved that, so.
Mr. Chair?
Do we have a second on Commissioner Rooney's?
Who was the
motion?
seconder?
No one yet.
Mr. Chair, if I could. I'm also sort of an outsider view, but it feels to me just what Mr. Avila said, that the letter was already, that the evaluation was already completed. I also am feeling uncomfortable about pulling something off of an agenda that's already been publicly posted. It's already there. There's no unseeing it. So, I mean, it can also, obviously, another letter could be written if you do the other closed session, but I feel really uncomfortable about trying to pull something off an agenda. And the item is to receive and file, not to agree with it.
That's right. That's right.
Well, hearing no second.
Chair Richards, no, I'd like to
Yes,
comment, please.
Commissioner Rooney.
You know, the first time that me as a sitting commissioner for the last 6 years or so saw this letter was when it was posted publicly. That's the first time that I've seen this letter. After the evaluation that occurred in December, I never received anything, any information from any HR, anybody as to what the outcome of that closed session was. And so I feel like I wasn't given the opportunity to provide my comments to Mr. Loma. And also, this letter of commendation was written, I don't know how it got there, but it's there. And it's misleading to the fact that it was unanimous of the people who were sitting in the room at that time that gave comments. And so without violating a Brown Act here and a personnel issue, that's why I feel like it needs to go into closed session, because me personally, I was not part of this unanimous decision, and this letter makes it appear that I was part of that decision offering the letter of commendation, which I take exception to.
Okay, Kai.
We have no second.
No, okay,
So I'm assuming it fails.
So it fails, yeah.
All right. Moving on, your motion fails, Commissioner Rooney.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 18.
I'd like to break them apart to individual items, please.
I'm sorry, say again?
I would like us not to take them all in bulk. I'd like you to break each individual item separately to have a vote, please.
We have we're currently in the process that we have a motion for receive and file.
Mhm.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, we vote. Have a second.
Commissioner Avila?
Aye.
Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin?
Yes.
Commissioner LaVere?
Yes.
Commissioner Rooney?
No,
Commissioner Zaragoza?
Yes.
Chair Richards?
Yes. Okay, completed item 18. We're moving on to item 19, application for receive. Kai, you have some information for us?
Item 19 is just informational. No action is needed.
Okay.
So we don't need a vote on receive and file. Okay. And moving on to item 20, executive officers' reports. You're up again.
Sure, thank you, Chair. These are just items that we are anticipating coming back before the commission, either at the February meeting or the March meeting. And again, it all depends on workload. There is a chance, based on what we're looking at now, that the February meeting might be canceled. I just want to make you aware of that, in which case the March meeting, I think it's March 18th, would be the next commission meeting, but we'll certainly let you know as soon as we make that decision. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner comments, I'd like to begin by saying I will not be attending the next meeting on February, so I'll be out of town. So, any comments from the commissioners?
I'd just like to congratulate all the new commissioners, that were appointed or elected. So I think that we have a pretty good commission, that's going to work, towards a betterment of the community.
And our new alternates?
And the alternates, we have Ms. Mohammed and Susan, so thank you for being here. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you, everyone, for the warm welcome. Also, during my swearing in, and writing in all the documentation about contact information, I realized that we all use our other agencies or cities or supervisor emails as contact information. I'd like to recommend that with everything going on and all the public comments and emails we receive, I think it'd be good to, again, put on our LAFCO hats and remove our agency hats. I believe we should be issued LAFCO email addresses for LAFCO business, and that's all I wanted to comment on.
Interesting. Is that something you can look into for us?
I actually have. I had this discussion with Commissioner Avila a few days ago. LAFCO uses the county's email system. We're issued an email based on county. It doesn't say County of Ventura, but it's your name @ventura.org. I did talk to IT. They said that they could make that happen, that they could issue, essentially there'd be county emails to the commission. There would be a nominal cost with that. But if it's the pleasure of the commission, we can look into the specifics of that and move forward doing so. The other option that they did mention is that commissioners are also free to establish their own email, like Gmail, and use that, specifically for commission purposes. But whatever the direction of the commission is, we'd be happy to pursue that.
Yes.
And part of my reasoning for that was, we all know about public records request, right? If they go to one of our agencies or the cities, that's going to be on our IT staff and our council. If you use a private email address, that would rely on us, on our personal equipment, going to council and doing it that way. Whereas if we had a county email address, potentially county council could work with IT staff just to get what was requested. I think it would simplify potential issues.
It would also be beneficial to staff, so it would remove a lot of confusion about what emails different commissioners want to use. Some commissioners ask for multiple emails to be sent out, so it would streamline that communication process. But again, whatever the desire of the commission.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Well, at this point in time, I'd just like to say welcome to everybody that's new, and also some returning folks that we have here from years past. So anyways, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much.